One of the most important responsibilities we all share is the responsibility to be truthful. In our public life, in our relationships with others, and most of all, in our relationship with ourselves. While the truth is a shifty notion, an authentic attitude is not. We need this honest approach more than ever today, and most of all, we need it in the media. Unfortunately, we live in times where the amount of disinformation is equal or superior to the amount of information. That means that anything goes, and we often end up not knowing what to believe or what to think. It's not only sad to witness newspapers, TV stations, and social media. That means that anything goes, and we often end up not knowing what to believe or what to think. It's not only sad to witness newspapers, TV stations, and social media promote the falsehoods known as fake news. It is equally embarrassing to see how they advance a culture of squirming commiseration or puffing outrage, leading to already marginalized groups being infantilized by a culture of victimhood and offense-taking. This attitude is passed on to readers and viewers who are going, "How dare they? Isn't that awful?" Or, "That's just incredibly sad. Poor people." So what's for supper? I will come back to this helpless attitude we all know to some extent, but let me tell you a little bit about myself first. Over 35 years ago, I fell in love with a Swiss publisher called Dieter Hagenbach, whom I had contacted in search of work as a translator for his magazine called Sphinx. Instead, he gave me Timothy Leary's book, The Game of Life, to translate, and he gave me his brainchild by asking me to become the editor of Sphinx. It was a New Age magazine, but not too esoteric. Rather, Sphinx was at the cutting edge of science and technology, as well as running columns of bodywork, astrology, various media, and a comprehensive calendar of events. The motto of the publishing house and the magazine was, "From old traditions via the here and now to new dimensions," or to new illusions, as I like to tease Dieter, one of the most brilliant publishers of the past century, who familiarized German-speaking readers with a wealth of authors with an impact on progressive thinking and spirituality. From Aleister Crowley, Alexandra David Neal, George Ivanovich Gurdjieff, and Diane Fortune via Alan Watts or Pierre Derlon, to Robert Anton Wilson, Joseph Campbell and Marilyn Ferguson, Albert Hoffman, John Lilly, Timothy Leary, and Terence McKenna, to name but some of the most famous. Needless to say, Sphinx united everything I was interested in. I had had my first brush with journalism in Toronto by way of typesetting the York University student paper to make a little extra cash while absorbing my freshman year at Glendon College, York's liberal art college. The paper was called Excalibur. Soon I discovered that there were no women writing for this publication, not one. This was in the winter of 69-70 when Glendon College proclaimed the year of the radical, and feminism hit the student circuit. I soon talked the editors into letting me write music reviews and even the odd article. In this, I took the stance of the participant observer, something that was also new at the time. And my position essentially was, too bad if you weren't there. Of course, I was young and foolish, but I had a point. There is no objectivity in journalism, and if you weren't there, you'll never know what it was really like. So that all journalism is a second-hand experience. As the word implies, subjectivity starts with the choice of a subject, which already reveals a particular taste or leaning. And this leaning also dictates who you're going to choose as your informants, what books and articles you're going to read and quote, and whose side you're going to take, covertly or overtly. Because this is what I learned in college in Canada. Any position can be defended, any argument supported. If two people say the same thing, it becomes plausible. If 3 or 4 say so, it's considered valid. And if it has been substantiated, peer-reviewed, and publicized, it's de facto true. I'm not saying there are no good or honest or curious journalists. Of course there are. However, most of the press have an axe to grind. They're extreme left, leftish, liberal or progressive, or conservative, down to alt-light and alt-right. And if this is an attitude they don't hide, they are free to promote all the thoughts I disagree with that they like. The point is, good journalism is balanced journalism. It means that you do not only present your own view or the prevalent view, but also differing and opposite viewpoints, as well as the synthesis of these various tastes and leanings. But the way things are going, and especially in the tabloids influencing the masses, readers are told what to think rather than being helped to form their own opinion. This is what I call talking down to your audience, and it's way too simplistic and moreover futile, because in the final analysis, it is still up to you what you choose to believe, up to you what opinion you cultivate, up to you what causes you support or become involved in. As Timothy Leary liked to say, you are the director of your own movie, and the movie you are making tells the story of the great adventure that is your life. When we read the papers with any regularity, and I'm a press junkie by necessity, as you'll come to understand, we end up being rather pessimistic about the world and its workings. To make an informed decision, you obviously have to inform yourself. Unfortunately, and usually for reasons of time, we mostly rely on what others put on our plate. Because, as we all know, there is one thing the entire press all over the world has in common, and that is that they are addicted to bad news. In the words of German comedian Dieter Nuhr, the media constantly show us people who were maimed in wars or who died in natural disasters, as if the world were only made up of horror stories, which is definitely not the case. On the one hand, the media are indispensable, but they are also a pest for our brain. The Guardian, one of my favorite newspapers, has picked up on this and created a weekly column called The Upside. Here is how they sell it to their readers. News doesn't always have to be bad. Indeed, the relentless focus on confrontation, disaster, antagonism, and blame risks convincing the public that the world is hopeless and there is nothing we can do. This series is an antidote, an attempt to show that there is plenty of hope as our journalists scour the planet looking for pioneers, trailblazers, best practice, unsung heroes, ideas that work, ideas that might, and innovations whose time might have come. Scour the planet? Sounds like they're looking for the needle in the haystack, and that seems wrong to me. How big does an effort have to be to merit being acknowledged? We cannot all be Brian Slut of the ocean cleanup, a project I admire and support, keep Skatistan rolling like the skater pros, though we can all contribute, or clean up the Himalayas, as much as I'd like to sign up for that too. In actual fact, and though the world faces huge challenges, we have made tremendous progress. Most people no longer live in the abject poverty still witnessed all over the world only 30 or 40 years ago. And here I am quoting Hans Rotling's book Factfulness and what he calls the fact-based worldview. In fact, the majority of the world's population lives somewhere in the middle of the income scale. Perhaps they are not what we think of as middle class, but they are not living in extreme poverty. Their girls go to school, their children get vaccinated, they live in two-child families, and they want to go abroad on holiday, not as refugees. Step by step, year by year, the world is improving. Not on every single measure every year, but as a rule. Undoubtedly, the press wields a lot of power, and if it would concentrate on the progress we are making by relegating the bad news, that is mostly the political news, to the last pages of their publications, these sad events would hopefully lose some of the morbid fascination they evoke. Instead, war and conflicts would become the fodder of solution-oriented experts rather than of an impotent public made up of you and me. It robs us of energy to read bad news and to feel that, while it affects us all, there is little we can do about it. But what we can do anytime we choose is to work for positive changes in our lives, in the lives of others, and most of all, in the life of our Mother Earth. We can all contribute to this lofty aim by picking up garbage as we walk or jog, by avoiding animal products, or at least by eating less meat and dairy, by wearing more second-hand clothes and shopping in person rather than through the mail and via the internet, by walking or riding a bicycle whenever we can, as well as by keeping ourselves in shape. And while I fall short of many of the aforementioned, I am keeping my eyes and ears open for other good ideas to integrate into my daily life. I believe that the time has come for us all to make more of an effort and to dedicate more of our time to the causes we believe in. As the I Ching, the oldest wisdom book we have, puts it, evil cannot be confronted directly. We can only make energetic progress in the good. To come back to Dieter Hagenbach and his work, when he turned 50, he established Gaiamedia, a non-profit foundation registered in Basel on 23 July 1993, with the purpose of communicating information that contributes to a holistic understanding of nature and human existence. The foundation's newsletter, the Gaiamedia Good News, has been dedicated to promoting positive news and trends ever since, just like the magazine that preceded it. If you're not already receiving our positive newsletter and wish to subscribe on a donation base, please let me know. Since I have been its editor for close to a year now, a talk I took on to honor Dieter's work, seeing he unexpectedly passed away in August of 2016. So when all is said and done, the one question that remains is, what do we want to be committed to in this day and age? For as far as I'm concerned, it's no less than peace on a sustainable planet and the well-being of all living beings. So let's keep on accentuating the positive. Thank you very much.